Chen opened the security app on his phone, expecting nothing. 12 caregivers before her had come and gone. 12 promises broken. 12 betrayals that carved away what little trust he had left. So when he saw those 3 wheelchairs sitting empty in the corner of the therapy room, his blood ran cold. Then he saw them. His 3 paralyzed daughters, Sophia, Emma, and Grace, actually standing on their own 2 feet, legs trembling but holding, taking small, shaky steps toward the woman kneeling in front of them with outstretched arms. Marcus's phone slipped from his hand. It clattered against the mahogany desk. His vision blurred. The man who controlled a $7 billion pharmaceutical empire, the man who made decisions that affected millions of lives, couldn't process what he was seeing on a screen in his own home. His daughters were walking. The daughters doctors said would never walk, never stand, never move beyond the limitations cerebral palsy had locked into their small bodies. And a woman making $16 an hour had just shattered everything those specialists told him was impossible. 3 years ago, Chen lost the only thing that mattered more than his company. His wife, Dr. Jennifer Chen, died 30 minutes after delivering triplets. Amniotic fluid embolism. 1 in 40,000 chance. No warning, no time to say goodbye. Just a catastrophic failure of her body while bringing 3 new lives into the world. Marcus held her hand as the machines stopped beeping, kissed her forehead while it was still warm, then walked down that hospital corridor to meet Sophia, Emma, and Grace. 3 premature babies, each weighing less than 4 pounds, fighting for every breath in their isolates. He stood there in the NICU, hands pressed against the glass, and made a promise to Jennifer's memory. I'll take care of them. I'll give them everything. But 6 weeks later, the neurologist delivered the second blow. Mr. Chen, the MRI results show significant damage to the motor cortex. All 3 girls have severe cerebral palsy. Based on the extent of the brain injury and their muscle tone assessments, independent mobility is highly unlikely. Possibly never. Marcus sat in that sterile office, his 3-month-old daughters sleeping in their stroller, and heard the word that would haunt him for 3 years. Never. Never walk. Never run. Never dance at their wedding someday. Never chase each other through the massive Connecticut estate he'd bought for Jennifer, the one with the gardens she'd wanted to fill with their children's laughter. The doctors said it with clinical certainty. Physical therapists confirmed it. Specialists from Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, and Boston Children's Hospital all reviewed the scans and delivered the same verdict. Marcus spent $4 million in the first year alone. Custom wheelchairs designed by aerospace engineers. Experimental treatments from Germany. Stem cell therapy in Switzerland. A full therapy suite built into his home with equipment most hospitals couldn't afford. Nothing changed. Sophia, Emma, and Grace grew into beautiful 3-year-old girls with dark curls in their mother's eyes. But they sat in their wheelchairs, small bodies still, eyes often distant. They didn't hit milestones. They didn't improve despite everything Marcus threw at the problem. And slowly, like water wearing down stone, Marcus began to accept what the doctors said. His daughters would never walk. He buried the hope in the same place he'd buried Jennifer. Then came the caregivers. 12 of them over 18 months. The first one quit after 3 weeks. Said watching the girls was too depressing. She couldn't handle the reality of caring for children who wouldn't recover. The second lasted 2 months before Marcus discovered she was taking photos of his daughters during therapy sessions and selling them to tabloid websites. Pharma billionaire's tragic triplets brought her $6,000. It cost Marcus a lawsuit and his remaining faith in humanity. The third caregiver seemed perfect. Credentials from a top nursing school, stellar references, warm smile. She lasted 4 months before she was caught stealing prescription medications from the house pharmacy. Painkillers she was selling to fund a gambling addiction. After that, something broke inside Marcus. Caregiver 4 accessed his bank accounts and transferred $18,000 before disappearing. Caregiver 5 brought her boyfriend into the house when Marcus was traveling, using his home like a hotel. Caregiver 6 fell asleep during a therapy session, and Emma rolled her wheelchair into a wall, splitting her lip. Each betrayal carved away another piece of Marcus's ability to trust. So he installed cameras. Everywhere. Living room, hallways, therapy room, playroom, kitchen. 42 cameras total, feeding live to his phone and laptop. He could watch from anywhere in the world. Zoom in, rewind, catch the lie before it spread. His head of security, a former FBI agent, installed motion sensors and alerts. Marcus received notifications every time someone entered a room, every time a door opened, every time something moved that shouldn't. Control became his only protection. At night, Marcus would sit in his office, blue light from 6 monitors washing over his face, and watch hours of footage. Fast-forwarding through empty hallways, pausing on moments that made his chest tight, looking for the betrayal he knew was coming. Because it always came. 12 caregivers. 12 failures. 12 reasons to believe number 13 would be no different. So when Isabella Rodriguez walked through his front door on a cold Tuesday morning, Marcus didn't see a person. He saw betrayal number 13, waiting to happen. Isabella was 28 years old. She'd immigrated from the Philippines 6 years earlier, working 2 jobs while studying early childhood development at night. Her resume listed experience with special needs children. Her references checked out. Background check came back clean. But Marcus had heard it all before. She stood in his office for the interview, hands clasped in front of her, wearing a simple blue dress and flats that had seen better days. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical bun. No jewelry except a small silver cross on a chain around her neck. Marcus didn't look up from her file. "The girls are on a strict medical protocol," he said, his voice flat and businesslike. "Physical therapy Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 a.m. occupational therapy Tuesday, and Thursday at 2 p.m. medications administered according to the chart posted in the therapy room. No deviations. I understand, Mr. Chen. No bonding. No getting attached. No false hope speeches about recovery or miracles or any of that nonsense. The doctors have made their prognosis clear. These children will never walk. Your job is to maintain their quality of life within realistic expectations." Isabella was quiet for a moment. Then, "May I ask a question, sir?" Marcus finally looked up, irritation flickering across his face. "What? Have you asked the girls what they want?" The question landed like a slap. "Excuse me." Isabella met his eyes. "Your daughters. Have you asked them what they want? What they dream about?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "They're 3 years old. They don't understand their condition. Maybe that's the point." Her voice was gentle but firm. Maybe not understanding their limitations is exactly what they need. Marcus stared at her. Part of him wanted to end the interview right there. Fire her before he even hired her. But something in her eyes stopped him. Not pity, not idealism. Something deeper. Like she'd seen grief before and survived it. "Follow the protocol," he said coldly. "Nothing more. Nothing less. Do we have an understanding?" "Yes, sir. The cameras are everywhere. I'll be watching." Isabella nodded slowly. "I understand." She started the next morning. Marcus watched her through the cameras from day one. He told himself it was necessary. Protection. Due diligence. But really, he was waiting for her to slip up. Waiting for the moment he could point to and say, "See, I was right not to trust." Isabella's routine was unervingly consistent. She arrived every morning at exactly 7 a.m., entering through the service entrance. She'd greet Martha, the head housekeeper who'd been with the family for 15 years, then make her way to the therapy room where the night nurse would brief her on the girl's sleep. The first thing Isabella did every single morning surprised Marcus. She didn't immediately start tasks, didn't check the schedule or review therapy notes. She just sat with them. For 10 full minutes, Isabella would pull a small stool into the center of the room and sit there, watching. Not doing anything, just being present. Observing how Sophia's fingers curled when she was uncomfortable. How Emma's breathing changed when she needed repositioning. How Grace's eyes followed sounds even when her body remained still. She was learning his daughters. Marcus watched this through the camera feed, his coffee growing cold in his hand. What was she doing? She was wasting time he was paying for. But he didn't call her. Didn't press the intercom button to demand she start working. Because Sophia, turned her head toward Isabella on the fourth morning. Just slightly, just a few degrees, but Marcus saw it clearly on the screen. His daughter, who spent most days staring at the same spot on the wall, turned toward this woman who simply sat with her. On Isabella's fifth day, she brought music into the therapy room. Nothing fancy, just a small Bluetooth speaker she pulled from her bag. She sat on a shelf and pressed play. Soft piano music filled the room. Something classical. Something Jennifer used to listen to while she worked. Marcus's hand froze over his keyboard. He leaned closer to the monitor. This wasn't in the protocol. The girls had specific sound therapy sessions on Thursdays, administered by a licensed therapist using clinically approved tones and frequencies. Random music wasn't part of the plan. Marcus reached for his phone to call her, to shut this down immediately. Then Emma's fingers twitched. It was small, barely noticeable, but Marcus had spent 3 years watching his daughters for any sign of movement, any hint of change. Emma's fingers moved against her wheelchair armrest. Intentionally, in rhythm with the music. Marcus set his phone down slowly. Isabella noticed too. She knelt beside Emma's wheelchair, moving carefully, deliberately. She didn't touch her right away, just positioned herself where Emma could see her. "You like that, sweetheart?" Isabella's voice came through the speaker, gentle and warm. "That's Chopin. My grandmother used to play it every Sunday morning while she made breakfast." Emma's fingers twitched again. Isabella reached out and placed her hand near Emma's, not touching, just close enough that Emma could feel the warmth if she wanted to. "I see you," Isabella whispered. "I see you listening. I see you there." She stayed like that for 3 full minutes. Patient, unhurried, just being present with a child everyone had given up on. Marcus's throat tightened. When was the last time he'd sat with his daughters like that? When was the last time he'd just been present without an agenda, without checking monitors or reviewing therapy reports or calculating costs? He couldn't remember. That afternoon, Marcus found himself walking toward the therapy room. He told himself he needed to check the equipment, verify the temperature settings, ensure everything was properly maintained. But when he reached the door and heard Isabella's voice inside, he stopped. She was reading. Not a medical manual or therapy guide, but a children's story. Something about a little bird who wanted to learn to fly. Everyone told her, birds with broken wings don't fly. Isabella read, her voice clear and gentle. But the little bird didn't listen. She climbed to the top of the tree every single day, and every single day she tried. Marcus peered through the crack in the door. The girls were arranged in a semicircle around her. Isabella sat cross-legged on the floor, the book open in her lap. Her eyes moved between the pages and their faces, checking, connecting. Did she ever fly? Isabella asked them. What do you think? Silence. But Grace's eyes were open, fixed on Isabella's face, focused in a way Marcus hadn't seen in months. Isabella smiled softly. She flew, she continued, not because someone told her she could, but because she never stopped believing it was possible. Marcus stepped back from the door. His chest felt strange, tight and loose at the same time, like something long frozen was beginning to crack. He walked back to his office without entering the room. That night, reviewing the footage, Marcus watched Isabella read that story 4 more times throughout the day. Watched the way she changed her voice for different characters. Watched the way she paused after important lines, letting the words settle. Watched his daughters watch her. And something he'd locked away 3 years ago began to whisper in the darkness of his office. What if she's right? Marcus closed the laptop and sat in the darkness, listening to the silence of his enormous, empty house. 12 caregivers had failed because they saw his daughters as a job, as a diagnosis, as children who would never improve. But Isabella, she saw something different. She saw 3 little girls who deserved someone to believe in them. Marcus pressed his palms against his eyes and took a shaky breath. He didn't trust it, couldn't trust it, because hope, when you've buried it that deep, doesn't feel like relief. It feels like a trap waiting to spring. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. The mansion woke up the same way every morning. Quiet, not peaceful quiet, the kind of quiet that presses against your chest and reminds you of everything missing. Marcus stood at his office window, watching the sunrise paint gold across the back garden. The fountain Jennifer had loved sat dry in the center of the lawn. He kept meaning to have it fixed. He never did. Behind him, 6 monitors glowed with camera feeds. Living room, hallway, therapy room. And there they were, his daughters. Sophia in her pink wheelchair, Emma in blue, Grace in yellow. 3 beautiful little girls trapped in bodies that wouldn't cooperate. Isabella moved between them, adjusting blankets, straightening toys. Her movements were careful, reverent, like she understood that this room held something fragile. Marcus had been watching her for 3 weeks now. Every morning, every afternoon, every evening before she left. Waiting for the betrayal. Waiting for the moment she'd prove him right. But never came. Instead, something else was happening. Something Marcus couldn't explain and didn't trust. Week 3, Isabella stopped following the protocol entirely. It started with the music, then the stories. Things Marcus could dismiss as harmless additions. But then it grew. One evening, Marcus pulled up the afternoon footage and nearly dropped his whiskey. Isabella was on the floor with Sophia. She had his daughter's small legs in her hands, moving them slowly, rhythmically, left, right, like Sophia was walking. Like her muscles remembered something her brain had forgotten. Marcus's jaw clenched. This wasn't in any therapy plan. No specialist had prescribed this. She was improvising, breaking every rule he'd set. He reached for his phone to fire her on the spot. Then Sophia laughed. Not a big laugh, just a small sound, barely more than breath. But Marcus heard it through the speakers, and his hand froze over the phone. His daughter was laughing. When was the last time he'd heard that sound? Marcus set the phone down. His hands were shaking. Isabella moved to Emma next. She positioned a soft toy just beyond Emma's reach on the wheelchair tray. Too far to grab without effort. "Come on, sweetheart," Isabella said softly. "You can do it. Just a little stretch." Emma's arm stayed still. Isabella waited. Patient. Unhurried. "I know you can," she whispered. "I believe in you." Marcus watched the screen, holding his breath without realizing it. Emma's fingers twitched. Her arm moved, slowly, painfully slowly, reaching forward. Her small hand stretched toward the toy. She touched it. Isabella's face broke into the widest smile. "Yes. Look at you. Look at what you just did." Emma's fingers curled around the toy. Marcus's eyes burned. He rewound the footage. Watched it again. And again. That small arm reaching. Those tiny fingers closing around fabric. Such a simple movement. Something any other child would do without thinking. But his daughter had just done the impossible. Marcus didn't sleep that night. Instead, he did something he hadn't done in 3 years. He researched. He opened his laptop and typed. Neuroplasticity in children with cerebral palsy. Articles flooded the screen. Medical journals. Case studies. Research papers from universities he recognized. He clicked the first one. Early intervention in pediatric cerebral palsy cases has shown remarkable results in neural pathway development. The infant and toddler brain demonstrates extraordinary plasticity. With consistent, targeted intervention, children with CP have achieved mobility outcomes far exceeding initial prognosis. Marcus clicked another. Repetitive motor pattern training can stimulate the brain to form new connections, bypassing damaged areas. Children once deemed unable to walk have, through intensive early therapy, achieved independent ambulation. And another, the key factor in successful outcomes, belief in possibility. Caregivers who expect improvement see significantly better results than those who accept initial limitations as permanent. Marcus read until his eyes burned, until the words blurred together, until 4 a.m. crept past and the house sat silent around him. Everything Isabella had been doing, the leg movements, the reaching exercises, the constant gentle encouragement, it was all there. Published, proven, real, and he'd never looked. Not once in 3 years. He'd taken those first doctors at their word, accepted their verdict like a death sentence, stopped researching, stopped questioning, stopped hoping. Marcus closed the laptop and sat in darkness. His daughters were improving, actually improving, doing things those initial specialists said they'd never do. and he'd almost fired the woman responsible. The shame hit him like a physical blow. Marcus clicked another. Repetitive motor pattern training can stimulate the brain to form new connections, bypassing damaged areas. Children once deemed unable to walk have, through intensive early therapy, achieved independent ambulation. In another, the key factor in successful outcomes, belief in possibility. Caregivers who expect improvement see significantly better results than those who accept initial limitations as permanent. Marcus read until his eyes burned, until the words blurred together, until 4 a.m. crept past and the house sat silent around him. Everything Isabella had been doing, the leg movements, the reaching exercises, the constant gentle encouragement, it was all there. Published, proven, real, and he'd never looked. Not once in 3 years. He'd taken those first doctors at their word, accepted their verdict like a death sentence, stopped researching, stopped questioning, stopped hoping. Marcus closed the laptop and sat in darkness. His daughters were improving, actually improving, doing things those initial specialists said they'd never do. And he'd almost fired the woman responsible. The shame hit him like a physical blow. For 3 years, he'd poured millions into maintaining his daughter's limitations. Expensive wheelchairs, medical equipment, nurses who kept them comfortable in their diagnosis. But he'd never once fought for something more. Isabella had been here 3 weeks, making $16 an hour, and she'd accomplished what his billions hadn't touched. Because she believed, and Marcus had stopped believing the day Jennifer died. Friday afternoon, Marcus couldn't take it anymore. 3 weeks of watching through screens. 3 weeks of footage that kept him awake at night. 3 weeks of seeing his daughters respond to a woman who broke every rule. He left his office and walked down the hallway toward the therapy room. His footsteps echoed against marble. Each step felt heavier than the last. He didn't knock, just pushed the door open. Isabella was on the floor with Grace, moving her legs in that same rhythmic pattern. Left, right, left, right. She looked up when the door opened. No surprise in her eyes. No fear. Just calm acknowledgement. Mr. Chen. Marcus's voice came out harder than he intended. What exactly are you doing? Isabella didn't stop the movement. Motor pattern training. It helps build neural pathways. That's not in the protocol. No, sir. It's not. Marcus stepped into the room. I gave you specific instructions. Follow the medical plan. No improvising. No experimental treatments. Isabella gently lowered Grace's legs and stood up. She faced him directly. The medical plan has them sitting in wheelchairs all day with minimal stimulation. That's not treatment, Mr. Chen. That's maintenance. Marcus's jaw tightened. The doctors gave you a prognosis based on statistics, Isabella interrupted, her voice even but fierce beneath the surface. They looked at scans and charts and told you what usually happens. They didn't tell you what's possible. They're specialists. They've seen hundreds of cases like this. Have they seen your daughters? The question hung in the air. Your girls aren't statistics, Mr. Chen. They're not case studies or data points. They're children, and children deserve someone who sees them, not their diagnosis. Marcus felt heat rise in his chest. You think you know better than doctors who've studied this for decades. I think I know that giving up on a child is the one thing guaranteed to fail. Silence. Marcus's hands were shaking. From anger or something else, he couldn't tell. You're filling their heads with false hope, he said quietly. When this doesn't work, and it won't, they'll be devastated. Isabella looked at him for a long moment. Something shifted in her eyes. Not pity. Something deeper. They're 3 years old, Mr. Chen. They don't know what false hope is. They only know what they feel. And right now, they feel someone believing in them. She paused. Maybe for the first time, the words landed like a slap. Marcus opened his mouth, closed it. Isabella turned back to Grace, kneeling beside her wheelchair. You hire me to care for them, she said softly, not looking at Marcus. That's what I'm doing. Marcus stood there, watching her ignore him. His mind screamed to fire her. Right now, call the agency. Have her replaced by morning. But his feet wouldn't move. Because deep down, in a place he'd locked away, a voice whispered something he didn't want to hear. What if she's right? If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Thursday afternoon, Marcus sat in his office, trying to focus on quarterly reports. Numbers blurred on the screen. His mind kept drifting to the therapy room. His phone buzzed. Motion alert. Living room. Marcus frowned. The girls were supposed to be in the therapy room at this hour. He picked up his phone and opened the security app, expecting to see Isabella moving them for a snack. The image took a moment to register. 3 wheelchairs sat against the wall. Empty. Marcus's stomach dropped. His first thought was panic. Something happened. An emergency. Then he saw them. Center of the living room. Hardwood floor gleaming in afternoon light. Sophia, Emma, and Grace. Standing. Marcus's breath stopped. His 3 paralyzed daughters, the girls doctors said would never stand, were upright, wobbly, shaking, but standing on their own 2 feet. Isabella knelt in front of them, about 5 feet away. Her arms stretched wide. Tears streamed down her face. "Come on, babies," she whispered. "Come to me. You can do it. One step." Marcus couldn't breathe. Sophia moved first. Her small foot lifted from the ground, hovered, then landed again, an inch forward. A step. Marcus's hand flew to his mouth. Emma went next, more cautious. Her legs trembled violently, but she moved, 1 foot then the other. 2 steps. A sound escaped Marcus's throat, something between a gasp and a sob. Grace, the smallest, stood there shaking, arms out for balance. Isabella reached toward her. "You can do it, sweet girl. I'm right here." Grace's foot lifted, came down. Another lift. Another step. 3 steps. Marcus watched his youngest daughter walk toward Isabella's outstretched arms. His phone slipped from his fingers. It clattered against the desk, but he didn't hear it. His knees buckled. Marcus slid down from his chair, back scraping against the desk until he sat on the floor. His legs wouldn't hold him. On the phone screen, face down but still playing, he could hear Isabella's voice. "Yes. Oh my God, yes. Look at you. Look at what you're doing." The girls reached her. She gathered all 3 into her arms, pulling them against her chest, sobbing openly. "I knew it," she cried. "I knew you could. I knew it." Marcus sat on his office floor, unable to move. Tears poured down his face. His whole body shook. 3 years. 3 years of doctors saying never. 3 years of specialists confirming impossible. 3 years of accepting that his daughters would spend their lives in wheelchairs. And there they were, standing, walking, reaching toward a woman who refused to believe what the world told her. Marcus pressed both hands against his face and wept. Not quiet tears, not controlled grief. This was something deeper, something breaking open inside him that had been locked away since the day Jennifer died. Every failure, every betrayal, every night spent watching screens instead of holding his daughters. The shame, the fear, the hope he'd buried so deep he'd forgotten it existed. It all came flooding out in waves that shook his entire body. His daughters could walk. His daughters could walk. And he'd almost given up on them. True wealth isn't what you build. It's who you become. And the most valuable thing in this life isn't success or money or power. It's love that stays, even in the silence, even in the dark. Love that stays. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? Matthew 16, verse 26, Thursday afternoon. Marcus sat in his office, trying to focus on quarterly reports. Numbers blurred on the screen. His mind kept drifting to the therapy room. His phone buzzed. Motion alert. Living room. Marcus frowned. The girls were supposed to be in the therapy room at this hour. He picked up his phone and opened the security app, expecting to see Isabella moving them for a snack. The image took a moment to register. 3 wheelchairs sat against the wall. Empty. Marcus's stomach dropped. His first thought was panic. Something happened. An emergency. Then he saw them. Center of the living room. Hardwood floor gleaming in afternoon light. Sophia, Emma, and Grace. Standing. Marcus's breath stopped. His 3 paralyzed daughters, the girls doctors said would never stand, were upright, wobbly, shaking, but standing on their own 2 feet. Isabella knelt in front of them, about 5 feet away. Her arms stretched wide. Tears streamed down her face. "Come on, babies," she whispered. "Come to me. You can do it." One step. Marcus couldn't breathe. Sophia moved first. Her small foot lifted from the ground, hovered, then landed again, an inch forward. A step. Marcus's hand flew to his mouth. Emma went next, more cautious. Her legs trembled violently, but she moved, one foot then the other. 2 steps. A sound escaped Marcus's throat, something between a gasp and a sob. Grace, the smallest, stood there shaking, arms out for balance. Isabella reached toward her. "You can do it, sweet girl. I'm right here." Grace's foot lifted, came down. Another lift. Another step. 3 steps. Marcus watched his youngest daughter walk toward Isabella's outstretched arms. His phone slipped from his fingers. It clattered against the desk, but he didn't hear it. His knees buckled. Marcus slid down from his chair, back scraping against the desk until he sat on the floor. His legs wouldn't hold him. On the phone screen, face down but still playing, he could hear Isabella's voice. "Yes. Oh my God, yes. Look at you. Look at what you're doing." The girls reached her. She gathered all 3 into her arms, pulling them against her chest, sobbing openly. "I knew it," she cried. "I knew you could. I knew it." Marcus sat on his office floor, unable to move. Tears poured down his face. His whole body shook. 3 years. 3 years of doctors saying never. 3 years of specialists confirming impossible. 3 years of accepting that his daughters would spend their lives in wheelchairs. And there they were, standing, walking, reaching toward a woman who refused to believe what the world told her. Marcus pressed both hands against his face and wept. Not quiet tears, not controlled grief. This was something deeper, something breaking open inside him that had been locked away since the day Jennifer died. Every failure, every betrayal, every night spent watching screens instead of holding his daughters. The shame, the fear, the hope he'd buried so deep he'd forgotten it existed. It all came flooding out in waves that shook his entire body. His daughters could walk. His daughters could walk. And he'd almost given up on them. Marcus didn't know how long he sat on that floor. Minutes, maybe longer. When he finally found the strength to stand, his legs felt hollow. He grabbed the edge of the desk and pulled himself up. He didn't pick up his phone, didn't need to watch anymore. He walked out his office on unsteady feet, down the long hallway, past the silence he'd built around himself like armor. The living room door was open. He stopped in the doorway. Isabella sat on the floor, all 3 girls in her lap. They were exhausted from the effort, small bodies limp against her chest. She held them like they were made of something precious. Her face was wet with tears, but she was smiling. She looked up when she sensed him there. Their eyes met. Marcus expected to see triumph, pride, a look that said, "I told you so." But that's not what he saw. He saw compassion. For him. Isabella didn't say anything, just watched him with those steady eyes, holding his daughters like she'd always held them, like they mattered. Marcus's legs gave out again. He knelt in the doorway, unable to take another step. "How?" His voice cracked. "How did you know?" Isabella looked down at the girls, then back at him. "I didn't know, Mr. Chen." Her voice was soft, gentle. "I just believed." Something broke inside Marcus. The last wall, the final barrier. He crawled forward on his knees until he reached them. His hand shook as he touched Sophia's face. Then Emma's. Then Grace's. His daughters. For 3 years, he'd watched them through screens. Loved them from a distance. Kept his heart locked away because losing more would kill him. But they were here. Alive. Fighting. Growing. And he'd almost missed it. Marcus gathered all 3 girls into his arms, pressed his face against their small heads, breathed in their scent. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." He said it over and over. An apology for every day he'd spent hiding. Every night he'd chosen fear over faith. Every moment he'd let grief steal from them. Isabella quietly moved back, giving him space. But Marcus reached out and grabbed her hand. "Stay," he said. "Please." She nodded. They sat there together on the living room floor. A broken father holding his daughters. A faithful woman who'd refused to give up. 3 wheelchairs pushed against the wall. No longer needed. Marcus looked at Isabella through blurred vision. You gave them their legs. She shook her head slowly. No, Mr. Chen. They gave themselves their legs. I just reminded them they could try. Marcus closed his eyes. Jennifer would have loved this woman. Jennifer would have loved this moment. And somewhere he believed she was watching. The afternoon light shifted through the windows, casting long shadows across the floor. The house felt different now. Not empty, not abandoned, alive. Marcus held his daughters tighter and let himself feel something he'd forgotten existed. Hope, not fragile hope, not cautious hope. Real hope, the kind that costs everything and gives back more. 6 months later, the house didn't feel empty anymore. Marcus restructured his entire life. He worked from home 3 days a week. No more 16-hour days. No more international trips during the week. He knew his daughters' favorite songs now, their games, their dreams. He was there for breakfast every morning, dinner every night, bedtime stories, bad dreams, good days and hard ones. He showed up, and slowly, his daughters began to trust him again. Isabella wasn't just the caregiver anymore. She was family. The girls called her Auntie Bella. She ate dinner with them, celebrated birthdays, prayed with them before bed, and Marcus learned from her how to listen without trying to fix everything, how to be present without controlling, how to love without conditions. One Saturday evening, as the sun dipped low, Marcus found them all in the garden Jennifer had designed. Isabella and the girls were on their knees in the dirt, planting something, their hands covered in soil, laughter floating through warm air. Marcus walked over. What are we planting? Grace looked up, face bright. Roses, Daddy. Mommy's favorite. Marcus knelt beside them, his throat tight. She loved pink roses. Sophia carefully pressed a seed into the earth. Why did she love them, Daddy? Marcus looked at Isabella. She smiled gently, encouraging him. He turned back to his daughters. Your mom used to say that roses teach us something important. They have thorns, sharp ones that can hurt, but they still bloom, still grow beautiful flowers despite the pain. He paused. She said that's how we're supposed to live. Beautiful despite the thorns. Like us, Emma said softly. Marcus's eyes burned. Yeah, baby. Like us. Grace pointed at the sky. Daddy, look. A monarch butterfly had landed on one of the rose bushes. The girls went quiet, watching it, its wings opening and closing slowly in the fading light. That's Mommy, Grace whispered. Isn't it? Isabella's voice was gentle. Yes, sweet girl. That's her, watching over you. So proud of how strong you become. The butterfly lifted into the air, circled once, then flew toward the sunset. Sophia took Marcus's hand. Do you think she knows we're okay now? Marcus pulled her close, pulled all 3 of them close, his voice thick with emotion. I think she knows. I think she's been watching this whole time, waiting for us to find our way back. Emma looked up at him. Are you staying, Daddy? Really staying? I'm staying, baby. I promise. I'm not going anywhere. Ever. Ever. Grace leaned her head against his chest. I'm glad Auntie Bella came. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. Marcus looked at Isabella over the girls' heads. She was wiping tears from her eyes. Thank you, he mouthed. She shook her head gently. No, thank God. And Marcus understood. This wasn't about him, or Isabella, or even the girls. It was about Grace. The kind that shows up when you're broken. The kind that reaches into silence and pulls out songs. The kind that doesn't give up even when you've given up on yourself. The sun disappeared behind the horizon. The garden filled with golden light. And for the first time since Jennifer died, Marcus Chen felt whole. Not because everything was perfect, but because he was finally where he was supposed to be. Present. Grateful. Home. Emma looked up at the darkening sky. The roses will grow, right, Daddy? Marcus kissed the top of her head. Yes, baby. They'll grow. And when they do, they'll bloom. Just like your mom said. Just like us, Sophia repeated. Just like us, Marcus whispered. And in that moment, surrounded by his daughters, standing beside the woman who'd saved them all, Marcus finally understood what his wife had been trying to teach him all along. True wealth isn't what you build. It's who you become. And the most valuable thing in this life isn't success or money or power. It's love that stays. even in the silence, even in the dark. Love that stays. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? Matthew 16, verse 26. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you love this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.